Hello and welcome to this video. My name's Barry Beckham. I think it's probably true to say that the best audiovisual sequences tell a story. Audiovisual enthusiasts will always say that a sequence needs to have a beginning, a middle and an end. Well, that's a storyline, isn't it? We should also try and capture a mood. And in a recent video I demonstrated how to create moving storm clouds, but what helped to capture the mood was a delicate sound effect. Now that sound effect, along with the images we were showing, led us nicely into the sequence. But audiovisual enthusiasts walk quite a difficult line here. There is quite a fine line between creating something that is creative and interesting and something that's crass. Let me show you a very short demonstration of what we're about to create. Now the first thing I needed was to find a font that was suitable. So coming to Google, I just put Typewriter Font into the search, and you can see the top one that come up here is one that's called JMH Typewriter. If we click on that, it opens up a secondary page, and I looked at the top two here and I felt the second one met my needs, so I went to the right hand side, clicked download, and I'm going to drop this onto my desktop. As you can see by the spinning round of the screen, I have brought you to my desktop. There's the zipped file, which is the Typewriter font. So we need to unzip that. That's pretty quick and easy. Right click and choose Extract All and Extract. Now you can see what's in the extracted folder. I'm going to select all of these. I'm using the Shift Click method. Select the top one, hold the Shift key, select the bottom one, and all those in between will be selected. I can right click and choose copy because I need to copy them into my fonts folder. Now with the spinning round of the screen yet again, I brought you into the control panel here, so I can go to the fonts folder and open that up. Then I can right click and I can paste the font that I've just downloaded. Then the font's going to be available in Photoshop. I can now close down this window. I'm going to open up Photoshop with the image I want to use with my text. So here we are in Photoshop with the image I want to use for my title. So I need to type the title. I'm going to go to my text tool from the toolbox, horizontal type tool, click into the picture, and I'm going to type the title I want, which is Cold War Scrapyard. Now once I've got my title in place, I could highlight the text and use the option at the middle center of the screen to change the color to black, which is what I want. But I tend to use the effects from the layer, so I'm going to hit the little tick to commit the text, and with this layer selected, the one at the top of the stack, I'm going to go down to the effects and I want color overlay. I'm going to select the little color panel and I'm going to navigate down to choose black. So there we have the text. What we need to do now is to highlight the text and go and find our typewriter font. So let's go up to the fonts. We've got quite a number here. Don't do what I did and look for T for typewriter because it comes up as a JMH. So we've got to go to the J's. Where am I? There we are. There's two here. I'm going to just jump between the two and you can see them change on screen. I think I like the bold one a little bit better, so I'm going to select that one. I'm going to hit the tick on the options bar here, but make sure you've got this option checked too, because once we've created the text we need to move it into the position where we want it to appear. Now I'd like mine over a little bit to the left, so I've got just a little balance between the opening title and the image in the bottom right corner. I think that's okay. We can now think about creating the images for our opening title. And we're going to need one for every letter. So we're going to need 15 different images here. Now after a quick double check, it's 16 images we actually need, not 15. So we need to begin by saving both the base image, which is the aircraft, and the text, and I'm going to save that as a JPEG at a compression level of about 6, and I'm going to call that number 16. Once we've done that, all we really need to do for each letter is just click and drag to highlight the letter, hit the delete key. You will need to commit the text, I think, before you save, but now we need to save that as image 15, and then 14, 13, 12, so on. So in the interests of speeding up this video, I've gone ahead and I've saved all 16 images, so we can now open up PicturesToExe and locate the folder we're working from. Now once again, in the interests of speeding up this video just a little bit, I've opened up PicturesToExe. I've dropped all the relevant 16 images into the slide list at the bottom of the screen, along with the one right at the front, which I've called the title image, which doesn't have any text at all. And using the cursor control keys, I can quickly skip through these so you can see how this is all going to appear on screen. So the important thing we're going to need next is a sound effect. I didn't find it too difficult to find the sound of a typewriter key being pressed, and there you can see a little MP3 that I've got in my file list. So using the timeline button at the extreme bottom right, let's move on to the timeline of PicturesToExe. And the first thing we need to do is to drag the sound effect down onto one of the images. Now the first image of course doesn't have any text in place, so we need the sound on the second one, so we need to drag it down somewhere around about there. You can see we're working with a very small sound. We've also got to give some thought to the transition length, which we can see shown to us here as this little grey bar. Now I can save you just a bit of time here because I found it all worked best for me with no transition time at all. And probably the easiest way to deal with that is, let's go back to the slide list just for a moment. We can select the second slide. The first slide we may actually want to fade. We'll come back and decide that sometime later. It's the next 16 which are the important ones, so I'm going to highlight the second slide, the first one with the letter. Scroll to the end while holding the shift and select the last, so we get all of those in between, because when I go to my transition time now, I can set all of those to 0. Now let's go back to the timeline and we'll see how that looks. But of course what we do have to do is to test things. Now the main thing we've got to try here is to see how the sound works with the first letter coming up after the first image. So if you remember, I just dragged down the typewriter key sound and I didn't make any attempt to get it perfectly placed, so I'll be amazed if it works well. You may also notice that it's going to be quite tricky to get it into the position we want it. So what we can do here is we can stretch the timeline, and that may make it easier. Let me bring my cursor back somewhere near to the start. We can stretch the timeline by holding the control key and touching the F11 key. And as you can see, the number of times I touch it, I can spread that timeline out, and now we've got a much better idea of where this sound needs to go, because I think it probably needs to go something like that. And I'm trying to line up these with the front. This first bit is pure guesswork, so let's try that. So I've got my cursor in that position. Let's just press play and listen to what we have in relation to watching the mini viewer at the top right to see if the sound corresponds nicely with the text. Well, that didn't look too bad at all, did it? Now you can make the timeline even longer to make it easier to get your sound effect lined up with the image. But once you've got the sound effect right, and you're absolutely certain it's right, then here's a little tip. Select the image, then move your cursor over the sound effect, right click, and choose to link it to that slide, which in our case is slide 2. Because at the moment we're not sure of the position of each of these along the timeline. They're going to need some variation to be able to create that realistic typing effect and noise. But if I move this around, I can be sure now that my sound effect is going to go with the image. Now there's a couple of things we could do here. We could drag down the typewriter key sound to each of these and position it much the same as we have here. But there is another way we can work, and once we've got these two locked together, we could perhaps keep that and just change the image. Let me explain. Now before we move on to the next tip I'd like to show you, we do need to make sure that we are really happy with the position of the sound effect and the image, and if you're not quite happy, then make sure you get these two perfect, because we're going to use this timing for every single image. What I'm going to suggest we do is to right click that image and choose copy slide, move the cursor a little bit to the right, right click and choose paste. Now what we've got is exactly the same image. You'll notice there's the letter C there and the letter C there. But what we can do here now is simply change this image. Now I'm going to go to my settings at the top left of the screen. Once I've got the settings open, I need my preferences and I need my toolbars, because I need to go down here and I want to tick this option here to change image or video file. As I tick the box, if you look up at the extreme right of the screen just to the left of the preview, you can see it's appeared in that position. We're going to need that, so let's click OK. So what I can do now is select that second image, go up to the top right of the screen and just change the image, because I need to change that now to image number 2. There you can see we've got the C on the first one, the CO on the next one, so I can do the same thing. In fact, I could remove all of these to the right. In fact, let me just move them up out of the way, because we can do this quite quickly with Control C and Control V. So Control C and V, and I've got a second image. I should have moved my cursor a little bit first, but you can see I've got another copy. Now I can select the image, change that, and we just need to change to the one that contains the third letter. There we have it. So there's the C, there's the O, there's the L, and of course we would continue for the remainder. And before you go too far, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just have a double check on the sound effect in relation to the image. So let me put my cursor in that sort of position, press play, just concentrate on the sound and on the picture on screen. I think I can live with that, so I'm going to continue and create the rest of the images. Now, as you can see by the changing of the screen, I've come back into the slide list here. I just want to use my cursor control keys to skip through all of the slides just to make sure I haven't made any mistakes here and everything's going to come up as I expect, and that looks pretty good. So I think if we go back to the start here, I can save you just a little bit of time. We need to give quite a bit of thought, I think, to the slide duration, but of course because it's being typed, this slide duration is going to be extremely small. And what I found by some trial and error is that for the vast majority of these slides, not the first one perhaps, but certainly this one to slide 16, that the slide time needs to be something like 0.2. But to give it a little bit of variation, one or two need to be 0.3 and maybe there's an odd gap where we give 0.5. Maybe we can add that where we've got the gap between cold, war and scrapyard. You'll get the idea as you start to do this and you play a full screen preview. You'll get a feel for what I mean here. I can demonstrate, I suppose, what I mean by just pressing play here. And although we've got the images coming up and the correct sound, it's going to look a little bit too regimented. So let me press play. See what I mean? We need a few gaps there. Now with the spinning round of the screen, I've just made one or two very small changes, but it makes the world of difference to how the text and the sound appears on screen. You can see that I've got 3 seconds for the image to appear before the text starts. I've got 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, but then I've got 0.3, slightly longer gap, and then a longer gap, 0.5, before the W appears. Back to 2, 2, 3, 2, and you can try this yourself. It's not exact, you can choose different values and get a similar result. There you can see another change to 3, 2, back to 5. Let me give you a view and you can watch and listen as we press play from the start, and it's completely different. Now it sounds much more authentic. And to bring the video to a close, let's take a look at a full screen preview. If you're watching this video on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe below and also hit the notification bell so you're informed when I post a new video. This video and others are also available as a download from our website, and you'll find a link below. These are standard MP4 HD videos, but you have the convenience of them right there on your desktop. Thanks for watching.